Today we are covering how I healed my eczema and topical steroid withdrawal naturally. What is up, healthcare squad? Logan here with Healthcare Stress Relief, and in this video we're going to be talking about the story of me healing my eczema. This was a very long journey for me. Started when I was a kid, went away, and then popped back up when I began my career in nursing. And there's a lot of insight I want to share about this. This story is a story of a lot of pain, but also a lot of hope. I want anyone watching this who's dealing with disease to have hope. I have a newfound thought process on what disease actually is. It's taken a lot of self-discovery and understanding of the human condition in order to have this new perspective. I came from a Western medicine background. I was a registered nurse for 2 years in the ICU. Burned out pretty hard, had eczema all over my body, pretty much down to my legs, and I took a step back from the career and went to South America, in particular Colombia, and went on a journey of healing and self-mastery. And in less than a year I was able to heal this condition that doctors told me was hereditary and I was going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. So I want to share my insight with you, my pain, my hope, and hopefully it inspires you to heal. I know now more than ever people are stressed out, have skin conditions, autoimmune disease, and it's more than just some hereditary condition. A lot of the things that occur in our lives are oftentimes signs and signals that we need to make a change. If you have something pop up in your body that's not comfortable, now I have the belief that our bodies are trying to tell us something. So stick around to the end of the video so you can get the full essence of my message. It's very important, it's very different, and I know you will enjoy it. So stick around and let's get this party started. Before I tell you anything, I just want you guys to know, if you are struggling with disease right now, your healing journey is going to be different than mine. Whatever I tell you, it works for me. It may not necessarily work for you, but it is probably a proper step that you could take to either eliminate any possibilities that is something that could help you heal, or to just bring you closer to understanding yourself more. For me, there was a lot of trial and error, and it got very frustrating at times, but at the end of the day, it was my belief system changing. I've had several friends who have had similar conditions to me. One in particular was telling me that this was going to be something he'd have to live with for the rest of his life. I told him, well, that's the case for you, but not for me. I'm going to heal this thing. And months later, I healed it. The only difference between the two of us, belief. I had the belief that it could be healed and he didn't. So in order to understand this whole thing, I'll dive into my story a little bit. When I was a kid, I had eczema. My mom did everything she could to try and help me, but she couldn't really figure it out. It eventually went away, especially in high school and college. It rarely popped up at all. And then I jump into the intensive care as a new grad registered nurse. And slowly my body starts giving me signals of this condition I had as a child popping back up. And I wasn't really in tune with my body at the time, didn't think much of it, just threw some steroid creams on it like all the doctors tell you to do, and called it a day, right? Well, I moved to a new hospital. The environment got more stressful, more challenging. I did enjoy the career for the time being, but eventually the stress got too high and the eczema got really, really, really bad. And it was a clear sign that something was wrong. I needed to change something. And I waited too long. If you're gonna get anything out of this video, if you have pain, if you have like even just a little rash on your arm, oftentimes you'll just throw some cream on it and that's it, right? But this is your body telling you something. You have to make some changes, otherwise it will spread. For me, it spread all over my body. And it got to the point where I saw multiple dermatologists at very high-ranked institutions. When they did nothing for me, I went to an allergy specialist. I pleaded for them to please just give me a test so we could rule anything out. They kind of argued with me, but because I did have a medical background, and I was really pressing. They eventually caved in and they said, okay. And then the doctor tells me when I get the results, he tells me the results and he says, oh, well, these tests are actually very inaccurate, so take it with a grain of salt. So I'm just like, what? Why would I even take the test in the first place? And why was it such a problem for you to even order the test? What's the point of having the test at all? So at this point, I'm ingrained in the Western medicine culture. I work as an ICU nurse, and I really just didn't believe what these doctors were telling me at this point, because they were all telling me I would have to use steroid creams for the rest of my life. And there was this intuition in my head that was saying, no, there's something deeper. There's something that my body's trying to tell me, and I don't care what I have to do. I will change anything to just figure out what it is. And at this point, I become an investigator, right? But the hard part about this journey was when I completely removed the steroid creams. I didn't know this at the time, but topical steroid withdrawal can occur because you're putting an exogenous hormone on your skin, and it's a steroid, right? Your kidneys excrete cortisol, which is a steroid, and when you're putting this cream on your skin, your kidneys stop working, and then when you stop using the cream, your kidneys have to turn back on, but oftentimes they're asleep because they were so used to the cream. So you can get really bad symptoms after this. My eyes puffed up, you'll see in this picture, just so bad I couldn't see. I had no idea what the hell was going on. I thought that maybe I had brushed up against some pollen or something. Knew nothing about topical steroid withdrawal at the time. And this is the kind of medicine that people are prescribing, and they're not even telling you about this stuff. They don't even know about it. I had pharmacists telling me that it was okay to put it on my eyelids, and then after doing further research and talking to pharmacists at my hospital, they're telling me that do not put it on your eyelids because it can damage them and actually make the skin worse. So I was getting really mad with Western medicine at this time. I go and see a functional medicine doctor. She ends up firing herself because after 2 months of working together, I implemented pretty much everything she said. There were some changes, but the condition was still unmanageable, and so she just fired herself and said, I'm sorry, but I haven't seen anything like this. Good luck on your journey. And I'm really losing hope, scratching myself at night, every night, working 12-hour shifts as a nurse, coming home, not getting any sleep, walking into work, taking care of patients with 2 hours of sleep. They're looking at me like I'm the patient. For the first time in my life, I developed depression, but I don't lose hope. And then one day I walk into work and hear the news that my coworker Brian committed suicide. So at this point, I was developing an exit plan, not the same way Brian did, but from the hospital. Because what I saw with what happened with Brian, I knew that if I continued down this path of just depression and eczema and pain, I'm not going to say that that was going to be me, but I wasn't even going to let that happen. And I saw what happened with management. They threw a farewell gathering for Brian, and that was it. There was no change in the workplace after that. And somebody who was working in our department killed themselves. And there was really no discussion after that about anything. And Brian's name just disappeared. So I did what any rational 25-year-old would do at the time. I put in my 2 weeks notice and booked a one-way ticket to Colombia. And in between the period of leaving the profession and going to Colombia, I started seeing an NAET doctor. This is an allergy specialist, and they operate in a much different way. They give you a little vial, put it in your hand, like let's say it's olive oil, and then they do a finger test to see if your fingers are weak. Yeah, I know. But I was pretty hopeless at this time. I did see a little bit of a change, but to be honest, I think it was a placebo. And I end up getting on Dupixent. If you know what Dupixent is, it's an injection into your abdomen. I took it for a month, so I took 2 doses. A very, very, very expensive medication, and that's how lost I was. And I will tell you this, I have a client now in my Bye Bye Burnout program, same condition as me. Crazy how he found me on YouTube. But he took Dupixent and he has corneal tears in his eyes now. And he's had a lot of health issues just from this pharmaceutical drug. And I'm telling you this because I healed my eczema without pharmaceuticals, and you can too. If you have a disease, it can be healed. There are certain conditions where you might need pharmaceuticals, but for the most part, I now believe that a lot of disease comes down to emotions and traumas and stuff like this. This is not stuff that we're talking about. If I get into a car accident and I get cut, then please take me to a hospital, but otherwise, that is the last place I want to go. So how did I actually start healing my eczema? That's the big question you're probably asking. So when I got to Colombia, lockdown occurred a couple weeks later. I stopped the Dupixent, I stopped everything. I started meditating because we were locked down, we couldn't go anywhere. I had nothing else to do. So I started meditating. I paid a breathwork consultant a lot of money to teach me breathwork, and I started working on that. I paid several different consultants, a habit consultant, Alex Walton, highly recommended, high performance coach, and I really started caring for myself and loving myself more. My diet had always been changing. I had always been trying to figure out the diet with eczema, and a lot of people will say diet has nothing to do with it, but you can look into leaky gut. This is an issue where the permeability of your GI tract, like your small intestine, it's supposed to stick together to keep anything from flowing in and out, right? But with leaky gut, if your gut gets damaged, it starts to open up and things start flowing through. This is the idea that a skin condition can be caused by things flowing out and into the blood and causing skin issues. So I definitely think that leaky gut was an issue. I was told by some specialists that I had candida, but later down the road, I got some blood tests done. I saw some other doctors and they told me it wasn't candida. They actually told me it was in my head. So I really had no clue during this whole journey what the hell to do a lot of the time. It was a lot of waves of hope and then despair and then hope and then despair. I was losing my hair. I was battling with a lot of limiting beliefs that I had had for such a long time. And the breathwork helped, the meditating helped, yoga helped. Working out too hard made my skin worse. Another thing that helps that's big in South America is plant medicine, in particular ayahuasca. Now, I'm not going to recommend this. It's a very drastic approach, especially what I did. And there are also, from my own experience, I learned there are shamans, which are the doctors in ancestral medicine who are human too. And oftentimes they may not have the best interest at hand. I will say this though, ayahuasca did help me in the form of loving myself more. And what I mean by this is by being able to care for myself more. It can often change your perception of habits and the way you see the world. So when you come back to reality, for lack of a better term, you often have insights that it told you of how to change your life. And those insights did help me a lot. It's basically care for yourself better, eat better, all the things we already know, and really change the way you see yourself, love yourself more. Like I never really ever gave myself a mental, let alone a physical hug before. The relationship we have with ourselves, it's often related to how we grew up and how we were programmed in childhood. We often hold on to the beliefs that we felt that our parents told us. And I think there's a huge pandemic with not a virus, but a virus of the mind. A lot of us have these limiting beliefs that we've been told and believe for our whole entire lives. And for me, I feel blessed because the eczema was actually showing me that I needed to love myself more and I needed to do some deep work. So after the ayahuasca and stuff, I met the love of my life, which if I didn't do all this deep work, I don't think I ever would have met her, because I did not care for myself enough and I didn't love myself enough. And then I meet her and I see a psychiatrist who specializes in childhood trauma. And we did some work, removed some layers and some limiting beliefs. That really helped me a lot. If you want that person's contact, I believe he is accepting clients, so just reach out to me on Instagram at Healthcare Stress Relief. And this was kind of the final chapter of me understanding my emotions better, stepping up in my business, and being able to serve people more. And then finally, my girlfriend, I have to give her credit for this. She basically said, like, eat some raw vegetables. Eat some raw vegetables and more fruit. I started doing that, and that's when everything finally sealed up. The skin was 100% better. And it was a very long journey. There are a lot of things that I didn't include in this video because it'd just be too long. So if you are struggling with anything at all in terms of disease and this story has inspired you, I do have insight that I think will be very valuable to you. So just reach out to me on Instagram. If you got any value out of this video, if you are struggling with skin conditions, if you've healed from it, go ahead and post in the comments below. My big message for you guys is all of this comes down to loving and caring for yourself more. If you really love and care for yourself, you won't accept employer treating you like shit. You won't accept toxic relationships. You will not accept doing something that doesn't align with your values. You will not accept working in a job for the rest of your life that you hate just for a paycheck. These things were inside of me and they were screaming at me, and they manifested in my skin, in my opinion. I had to make some serious changes and sacrifices, and for me, it took me moving to a completely different country without a job to figure it out. That's not going to be the same case for many of you, but the discomfort is a superpower for you. The pain in our human existence is there for a reason. It's to help us change. So embrace the change, embrace the fear, listen to it, and identify what you need to change. And if you need any help at all, I do have programs. You'd like to work one-on-one with me, reprogram some beliefs, love yourself more. I do have a couple of spots. So go ahead and click the link in the comments section and book a 15-minute call. We will see if we're a good fit and if I can serve you. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and check out this video about suicide in nursing. This is the story about my coworker Brian and how it impacted me and how I think that mental health and healthcare needs to be talked about more. So go ahead and check that out. You'll enjoy.